So the first video, we talked about the concept of this fly. The second video, we sketched the fly out. And through both of those videos, we talked about what materials we might use. So welcome to the Streamer Design video series, episode 3, materials. We're gonna have to get a little creative here. I have so much material around me right now. It's everywhere. Just like... So up to this point, we've figured out certain things about the fly that we're gonna work toward. This video, we have to start figuring out some materials. Certain materials I know we're gonna use. But other materials, I'm a little on the fence. I'm not 100% sure where we're going. But we're gonna talk about why I'm on the fence with some materials, why I'm leaning towards some materials, and the materials that I know we're gonna use, I wanna tell you why we're gonna use them. The last video, you got to watch me draw this fly out. I'm not an artist. I'm not. But I hope you can kind of see the idea behind this fly. The materials we're going to use are for an exact reason, every single one of them. And the ultimate goal is to try to create bulk without adding bulk. So the main thing we don't want to do with this fly is add bulk for bulk's sake. So as we're kind of going through these materials, we're going to talk about the pros and cons for adding this material versus this material, and stuff we will get out of it versus the cons that we'll take away from it. So when we were sketching this fly, we sketched it in steps. So first of all, we know we're using the belly bumper hook. Unless something turns out to where it doesn't swim like we want it to, then we'll switch over to the A-Rex. I really urge you to watch the first 2 videos if you haven't seen those yet. There's links in the description. We know we're gonna keel weight it with some lead. We're just going to. But the next step is what this material is. The material that covers the lead weight. And I don't know what that is. I have a kind of an idea of where I want to go, but let's jump into that. So my mind immediately jumped to polar chenille when I was first looking at this stuff to kind of create that. Polar chenille is literally one of my favorite inner body flash type of material, like this filler material that you can palmer up the hook to give like the look of inside flash, that iridescence look. This is basically what it is. So as you wrap this on the hook, material stands up and goes from there. It's real flowy material. It moves real well. I love this stuff. I use it in both the knucklehead and the knuckle deep. But my first instinct is that I think it's too long. I think it may be too long. Only drawback for it. And then brushes. So brushes are something that is probably going to be the most versatile because there's short fibered brushes, there's long fibered brushes, there's tons and tons and tons of different kinds of brushes, and this is just what I've got right in this hank right here. So I find myself leaning pretty hard towards a brush of some kind, and my first instinct is to give the Sparkle Minnow brush a shot. It is longer fibered, but it's skinnier fibers. Each fiber is a lot smaller than the fibers in the polar chenille, so it's gonna move. It's gonna take itself from being fluffy to a little bit more streamlined when it gets wet, which will help a taper too. The next step in my horrible drawing, we know we're using bucktail. Just period. The idea behind this is the bucktail will hold up the shank and keep the shank from fouling quite as much, because I think the shank is probably the part of the fly that I still don't know if it's gonna end up being in the final fly or not. I honestly don't. My first instinct is it's probably not, but if it does, it's gonna be so cool. But just being honest with myself, I don't think it's gonna be in the final product, but if I don't try it, I'll never know. But the thought process behind the bucktail is it's rigid enough to hold up the materials from the shank to keep it from just fouling around the back of the hook. So it's going to give a platform to keep everything away from the hook point, basically. So moving on to the shank, I've got a ton of these 10mm shanks. I'm gonna go short. I can't go long, and I'll tell you why. So here's my belly bumper, and this is the hook that we're gonna use. If I go too long on the shank, like here's a 20mm shank, I start to impede how much room I have between the point of the hook and the end of the shank, and that could hurt us hooking fish. You can't close this hook gap too much, or else there's nothing to hook and hold the fish. So I'm thinking 10mm shank and call it good. This is my dream. I hope this works. I hope it does. So on that shank, we're going with saddles. I'm thinking longer and skinnier with these feathers. I don't want schlopping because it's gonna be bulky at the end, and I don't want bulk. I want movement and tail kick, and having probably 4 saddles on there is definitely gonna give us tail kick. Then in the tail with the saddles, I'm leaning Polar Flash. I just love Polar Flash. It's so different than like Flashabou. Flashabou is very in your face, punch you in the face flash, and I'm not a huge punch you in the face flash type of guy. I like more of a subtle flash than a just bright flash, if that makes sense. So this is Flashabou, this is Polar Flash, this is way more in your face than this. This is almost translucent, to be honest. Each fiber has some like see-through capabilities, but it still has that flash, which is what I really like about it. So going back to my horrific step-by-step sketch, we've gone through the process of adding the tails and the bucktail and everything underneath. Now we need to build this part, and that's gonna be Maribou. I'm 100% sure we're gonna palmer Maribou. Maribou palmered around this hook is easily the way we're gonna go here. I use this technique in both the knucklehead and knuckle deep, so why not use it on this fly? I still don't have a name for this fly. I don't know. Palmering Maribou to start to create some bulk, so we don't have just a completely skinny fly when it gets wet. And I just love Maribou. It gives great movement. Just everybody loves Maribou. Along with the palmered Maribou that I have right here, I typically start to add a little bit of my wing color with some Maribou, so I'll just stack a little bit of Maribou on top here as well. I know I'm gonna do this. It helps you get more material on top of the hook, and that's what we really need. So as we're moving forward on the fly, when you get in front of the Maribou, the wing is next. And for this wing, this is probably what I'm battling the most. I could go with Arctic Fox and let it soak up a little bit of water and help it break the surface tension a little bit easier, maybe a little bit, but it's not a real long, flowy material, so it's not gonna blend into the tail very well, or the Maribou, the body. I feel like it could be a hump of material that just doesn't blend very well. I could go with the tried and true craft fur like I have in the original Knucklehead. Actually, most of the body's made out of craft fur. But then I'm not like being overly original with this fly. This is staying close. This is gonna stay within reach for sure. And then I have MFC scales and tails. And I'll be honest, guys, there's 1,000 different things I could use for this wing. The scales and tails is a really fun material. I really like this material. I did a product spotlight video on it a little while back. And I genuinely really like this stuff. It tapers well, but it's not gonna have quite the movement of craft fur, and I kind of worry that it may be just a little too rigid. It is also staying very close right here, and we're probably gonna end up tying it with both of them, but we'll see. And last but not least, obviously the head is gonna be fettuccine foam. We knew this. You can't have a Knucklehead series fly without fettuccine foam for a head. You just can't. On the underside of the hook, directly on the opposite side of the fettuccine foam, directly underneath the fettuccine foam, we're gonna use laser dub. It creates a throat, it tapers in and it'll blend into anything else that's on the underside of the hook, the Maribou, and then that flash, it'll blend in well to everything on the underneath side of the hook. That's where I'm at right now. So subscribe to my channel to be notified when I put out new videos. It's really kind of cool if you do the bell thing and you have it on your phone, the app will actually let you know as soon as I drop a video. Easiest way to keep up with what I'm doing. As I progress through this stuff, I'm gonna end up sending out flies to my gold tier members and on YouTube and on Patreon. Let them get them in their hands and let them fish them and everything like that. If you want information on how to become a member, there's gonna be a link in the description of this video. Check it out. No pressure. It is what it is, but it's really fun.